Thanks for joining the session. I'm pleased to tell you a little bit about WatchGuard and the latest products and developments we have done, including a nice acquisition products which are now in the full portfolio of WatchGuard. So let's look at why we at WatchGuard, and which markets we are looking at, and why we are developing products. We do see some challenges for many companies. And obviously, we do see these challenges by asking people what's going on. And in this case, it is a survey someone else has done, joined with us. It's already out of 2018-19, some data, but it is still valid. So numbers may be variance by country, but the general trend is always the same. So a large group of customers, a large group of companies already facing really security attacks. This doesn't mean that everyone is really hardly affected, but they're facing them. They're seeing this. As you may know, in many cases, these are automated attacks, so nothing really can happen. But there are also these days some really targeted attacks, and this comes up more often than before. Targeted attacks doesn't mean a specific company is a target. Targeted attacks can also be a specific group inside a company, like anyone dealing with finance in companies. So there are some targeted attacks which has some better results, if we may say this, in the words of a hacker, than a really a broad attack. From these 66% who faced an attack, 2/3 again was really affected. They've really seen an effect on this attack. So someone get into an account, get into a company, get into probably a cloud environment, etc. So these are really high numbers. And the question is, are we as a company, are you as a company, who else does know that you were really affected? In many cases, you doesn't know. And the challenge with this is it costs a lot of money. And as a downside, many customers are out of business after a couple of months, a couple of quarters. Numbers you have seen before, but the question is, how do we, as a vendor, provide solutions for companies affected here? And before we go into the next step, it is important to see how are the customers today really set up, really prepared for these attacks. Many people, I mean, 30% is a kind of many people think there are really good prepared to attack, but many people also think it's there is a challenge to build the right infrastructure and the right knowledge and the right team to fight against these common threats. And lack of cybersecurity stuff is quite common in all places around the world. There's a high demand of people, so really there's a fight for the best IT security people. And therefore, individual and probably smaller customer may not be able to hire the right level of people. And also we see that the willingness to invest in security is also not that high. Not everyone calls themselves enterprise or have access to some government budget. So mid-sized customers, so up to 500, up to 1,000 seats from the European perspective, those customer sizes are quite often faced with a reduced security budget. And also the time to prioritize security. This is quite important because if you combine the lack of staff combined with the low investments they're doing and the time, and then at the end, you are not really prepared as a company. And this is obviously a challenge for people. As a vendor, there's a clear answer to this. You have to provide products which are easy to install, easy to manage, and obviously easy to get information out of it when they are running. This is the answer for companies who are facing these issues. And there's many companies out there facing these struggles. But for a vendor, it's also important, and this is where WatchGuard is really good in, that you build enterprise-grade security, because the attacker's malware doesn't distinguish in all cases between an enterprise customer and a mid-sized customer, or even small customers. It's there are tactics from hackers used, which are enterprise grade. So you need to answer with an enterprise grade security. And this is obviously not that easy to do, to provide enterprise solutions with a simplified management. If you traditionally go to an enterprise solution, you need days to learn this. You need probably days or hours to implement it. And even a small change, it's hard to implement and to document. And this is where WatchGuard provides an answer to combine these three baskets here. And a very intelligent protection, a very, very simplified management from the first point of view. You can always go deeper, but the first impression, the first or daily work should be very simplified, which is then easy to do for everyone, for a service provider, but also for an end user. And obviously, if something happens, if a user can't log in, if an attack is identified, this must be visible for the IT admin guys, for the service provider in a very easy way. And this is the principles where we as WatchGuard build products on. The products we today have, or there are 4 baskets we have in our product portfolio. There is obviously network security. Many people know us for a product called Firebox, a firewall technology we implemented or we introduced into the market already in 1996, or a long time ago. We are dealing with firewalls, and we were the first one having a firewall appliance, so really a fully featured network appliance for mid-size customers. We were the first one in the market, so really proud about this. But obviously, these products evolved, and I will show you in the next couple of slides what is really key if you look at the right firewall to secure your network. Quite common these days is the second portfolio is multi-factor authentication. As we all know, data breaches happens all over. It's just a matter of time when your private accounts or your corporate accounts are somewhere published or unsold. It's just a matter of time. By the way, you can currently check this at WatchGuard.com. There is a dark web scanner, which means you can put in your domain and you can see where your domain is already used in the dark web. Which means someone has grabbed at least one email address or a group of email addresses or some credentials in general. And I think the old way to secure systems by having credentials, username, and password, it is still valid for many people because people think it is complicated to implement multi-factor, but it isn't. And here it comes the strength of WatchGuard. If you do it in the right way, it is simplified, and then everyone can use in a very easy manner multi-factor authentication. In terms of Wi-Fi, we have a very interesting portfolio, not looking at the pure Wi-Fi connection. This is done by many other vendors out there. We are focusing on a secure Wi-Fi portfolio. There's a patented solution in the Wi-Fi portfolio of WatchGuard, which secures existing Wi-Fi environments. I have no additional slides on this today, but it's really cool to have this additional layer which secures the Wi-Fi environment. If you have already a large or even a small Wi-Fi network and you want to have a kind of in-the-air firewall here, this can be done by WatchGuard Secure Access Points. And recently, we improved heavily our endpoint solutions by an acquisition of the Panda Security. So a name is probably known for many people in many countries. Panda has a long-term history of 30 years being in the endpoint security, and made some heavy changes in the last couple of years to build their cloud-based solution with 100% attestation and additional service around endpoint. Really cool technologies which improves any kind of endpoint security in a totally different league. I will dive into this later on. But all these four categories needs to be managed, and obviously our target is to bring all this together. We have at least for the network security, advanced endpoint protection, multi-factor authentication and secure Wi-Fi, there's already a combined management and visibility. Since the current situation of or the acquisition we have done just a few months ago, we are not really there of the implemented endpoint protection as part of the management, but this is already on the way, and we see some first implementation of this until January. So some good progress here as well, and obviously it's our target to have one management for all product lines, for all features you have. Because this is key. Keep in mind, simplified management and simplified visibility is key to have a good security for many different layers of different sizes of customers, but also different layers of security inside a customer installation. So layered defense. This is where you can really distinguish a professional network security perimeter firewall technology, versus an old school technology. Some products call themselves firewall, but they're not really a state-of-the-art solution which covers the layered defense. Layered defense is something which is also known as, or is based on the cyber kill chain. It's a phrase introduced a long time ago, where some consulting firms identify that an attack is always going into the same or doing the same tactics. Tactics means they do not really a kind of brute force and then they are in the company. They start with a small step. Every step more brings them closer to the target. And they may hide themselves for a couple of times. So it could be days, months. We have seen even months in cases where an attacker was in the company before they finally made some bad stuff inside the company. So this kill chain is defined, and it's really nice to go through this kill chain to see where a security solution fits here. So it's the first step is very easy. The first step is from the top to down is very easy to get the first information. For example, is there a financial department in the company? Is this company big enough to have someone call themselves financial manager? And if so, the next step could be I send an email to this financial manager talking about some nice, interesting finance stuff to ask him to click into an email. So there's a very simple example of these steps people are doing. It could be worse, that the information someone is looking for is even more technical, like network infrastructure or security infrastructure. So some more information than just like in my first very easy example, if there is a finance department in a company. And it is important to, I'm not going through all these because of the limited time today. I'm not going through all these different layers of the cyber kill chain, but it is important that your security solution has one, or in a best case, a combination of technology to fight against it. So for example, delivery. Is a hacker able to deliver something? So in terms of email, it's very easy. Email security, everyone knows this, and you can check if this is a spam email or etc. But is the email security today able to identify in all cases a very good phishing email? We see these days that phishing emails get very, very clever, and at the end, even security professionals are not that always able to identify a very good made phishing email. So it's really interesting to see that these things are evolving. The way WatchGuard is answering here, but obviously have some fundamental security service. Everyone knows them as probably UTM features like IPS, and you see themselves spam, etc., anti-spam solution. But what is more important that we combine these features with some advanced security services. So threat detection response is a service we have since a couple of years, which really using our cloud-based threat sync service to get into third-party solution, to get information from the endpoint to see if the endpoints which communicates through perimeter firewall is acting in the right way. We have some ransomware prevention solution, which is obviously taking care about the endpoint, looking at encryption here, and which connects to the firewall in itself. We do have some sandboxing capabilities. The latest addition here is intelligent AV, which means unlike the traditional signature-based solution, we now have machine learning infrastructure combined with all these services. And yes, many other vendors claim themselves. This is the list of features, but it's important to have the right combination as an answer to all these steps of a kill chain. And this makes WatchGuard special because our service, and this is how the products are designed. If you switch on an additional service, it doesn't mean that your performance is going down dramatically. The idea of WatchGuard is really to switch on all these services and to have just a limited, limited performance behavior here. So this is really key that if you're looking for the right service at your perimeter security, you have to have the right answers in combination of all these services. And at the end, obviously, you need the right management solution to cover all these different features in a very simplified UI. Let's talk for a minute about MFA. It's definitely more than just a password. Because if you imagine a regular in a regular world, you have a password provided by your company, or you have a password protection system provided by your company, which means you have to change this password every second day. This password must be very complicated and all this. This is quite common in most cases, but it's always combined with your username. And yes, people are lazy, and at the end you have these password 123. Next password is password 5, password 6, and all these. We know these happens because people can't remember all these different passwords. And this is why we strongly believe a combination of username and password isn't the right solution. Make passwords easier to remember, but combine them with a multi-factor solution like Outpoint from WatchGuard. What we provide is we secure identities in a company by management in the cloud, which combines the enterprise environment. It could be multiple solutions here, from endpoint servers, even internal portals, etc. VPN access. But also WatchGuard Outpoint is able to secure identities in a cloud environment. So one solution fits all. And at the end, you use a regular smartphone where you have different ways to authenticate in combination with something you are means your username, something you know means your probably simplified password, and something which changes all the time. So one-time password, QR code, and all these. So online and offline authentication. That's the way authentication should be done these days. And again, it is a very simplified user experience, and this is key for acceptance for the user in a larger environment. Let's talk about for a minute about the endpoint security from WatchGuard. As part of the acquisition of Panda, we now have the base product called Adaptive Defense 360, complete range of products, which obviously is the next generation of endpoint. So not working in a way that signatures are used. What we are doing, we are looking at every single process running a computer, which means everything, every single one means 100%. We call it 100% attestation service. This doesn't mean that we have 100% security. It would be not really serious to provide to confirm 100% security. But what we are doing, every single process who wants to run on a computer is proved first by WatchGuard, means Panda Adaptive Defense. And this makes it, really in a true zero trust model way, that an endpoint is, or a user can misbehave, not by purpose, but more like the wrong click on a website, the wrong click in an email. This may happen in many cases, and we have to provide the right solution. And this is when we step in and provide these endpoint solution. So 100% attestation means 100% zero trust model. But this is combined with some obviously really cool cloud-based visualization tools, reporting from multi-tier, multi-tenant environments. You implement this into a SIEM environment, and you can add some additional options like encryption for endpoints. We also have ways to manage patches. Just discussed by GFI that the SMB may not have the right overview of what processes or what operating system parts, or what basic applications are run by users. You may think that you know all this, but in nearly all cases we run a proof of concept. It is very easy to identify in a larger group of endpoints that there are some hidden processes no one was aware of before. So this is really key, that you have some automated tools, again, simplified environment. You have some automated tools who identify this and takes care about this unknown application. Before this unknown application may have some effect, positive or negative, on your computer. Again, with the 100% attestation, we reduces the negative impact here, but there's still still hackers try to get around with this. But again, Adaptive Defense 360 combined with some clever options like patch management, encryption, ransomware protection. This is the right way to combine endpoint security with the right network security WatchGuard is providing since many years. And this is where we think makes WatchGuard much stronger in the future, to have not a single point of security, to have a broader portfolio, broader view on an environment, starting from perimeter, going to the endpoint, and talking to each other. Here we go. There's one more slide. We offer a user-based security service bundle by a phishing solution, anti-phishing solution called DNS Watch Go. Very simple, managed rollout using a cloud-based infrastructure, and it makes it really possible for end users to, and even that they click on a phishing email by mistake because the cat was simply too nice. Then a window pops up and it shows, hey, you have done something wrong. Here's a learning infrastructure. Here you can learn more about phishing and how to be more careful what you're doing on your computer. And this passport bundle also includes Outpoint. I just described some details about Outpoint. And we recently added here also the endpoint protection, endpoint detection and response solution called AD360. So one solution fits a couple of different very state-of-the-art solutions to provide more security for people being on the road, or these days simply being in the home office, like me and many of you today. So have a look at WatchGuard. Have a look at WatchGuard.com. Oops, I still. Yep. Have a look at WatchGuard.com at the booth or at our website. And I think Anna shared already the free link or the link to free dark web scam, a very interesting offer we have done where we open some eyes of many IT admins. So please use it, and hopefully you're not surprised. You know what's going on in your background in your network. But if so, then let me know what's going on. Here are my contact details. And thanks for sharing some time with me.